All right, where should we start?
Let's start with Facebook.
All right.
I'll tell you what I think is a lot of people don't do a good job of is understanding their numbers. Like I'll ask people, what's your CPM? What's your click-through rate? They don't have a good funnel set up to understand what metrics they should be tracking.
And why do you like those two numbers?
I like more than like when I look at Facebook ads, I set it up like, you can change the tables and I'm like, show me my CPM, my CTR. I set the whole funnel up.
Yeah.
CTR, CPC, CP view, CP add to cart, CP initiate checkout, CP purchase.
Yep.
So that way I can be like, if there's a problem, where along this funnel is there a problem? And like, I was trying to think, is there a rule where you can say whatever your cost per add to cart should be 2x your cost per view, and that should be 4x your cost per click? I was trying to get into that. And I looked at a bunch of ad accounts before we were recording today or earlier today. And I was like, there isn't this rule across a bunch of ad accounts. Like, if you have an $80 product, your cost per add to cart is going to be a lot higher than your cost per view because people are going to get to your product and be like, should I buy this? This is too expensive versus a $12 product where they're going to be like, I can add to cart, no big deal. It's $12.
Yeah. It's also, so probably like 2-3 months ago, one of the companies we're both invested in had an issue where they were seeing their cost of customer acquisition went through the roof. And so I did this thing. I went into their dashboard and I set up the, CPM, CTR.
Yep.
Then number of views, cost per view, number of add to carts, cost per add to cart. And what we found is that the cost of add to cart had like 8x'd in price. And so immediately we were like, okay, now we know where the issue is.
Yes.
And then we go to the site and then we started running the pixel helper in Chrome. And we saw that, when we hit add to cart, it actually fires 8 times for each of the items in the cart because you're building a set. And we found our issue. But had we not used that view, and they hadn't before that I jumped in, they were, for 2 days, they didn't know where that issue was stemming from.
It's so helpful because as you go through, as like this business, as your business continues, like, a week or 2 weeks, like not a week or 2 weeks, but months or years into this, you can be like, I have a problem. What happened? Oh, it's 6 months ago. And you can be like, was my cost per add to cart 3x my cost per view?
Right.
And I was happy with that 6 months ago. What is it today? Where is the problem at add to cart? Is the problem at initiate checkout? Where is the hole in my funnel or what's gotten worse? And oftentimes, like if it's years and you're spending a lot of money, it's just your cost, your CTR is down, your CPC is up, your CPM is up. Those are problems that aren't funnel, like those are funnel problems, but like harder funnel problems because you're going to have to deal with Facebook and customers and win them over. And they're not just necessarily problems where you're like, there's a problem with my Shopify website.
If your CPM is higher than normal or your CTR is lower than normal, how do you interpret that?
If it's for a day, I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, things happen, just move forward.
Yeah.
If it's for a longer period of time, my creative is an issue.
Yeah.
It's especially like, CPM. So I think there's a couple rules that I actually do pay attention to, which was, and these are rules that I used when I was running native ads. So they're super old and they
these
may
are
not be
gut-born rules.
And like, rules that were true when the dinosaurs walked the earth.
Yeah.
One is I wouldn't spend more than $1,000 per million people in my audience per day in ads. So if my audience was 5 million people, I would only spend $5,000 per day for that audience. I wouldn't spend more than that. That was more relevant in days where there were lookalike audience and interest-based audiences than there are broad-based audiences. But a lot of people are still doing business as usual, BAU audiences, Facebook calls them, and lookalike audiences, including a bunch of ad accounts that I advise.
And what's business as usual?
Is non-Advantage Plus shopping campaigns.
Got it.
Sorry, yeah. I talked to a Facebook ad account rep and she used that term. Yeah. And I was like, what is BAU? And then I was like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe
smart.
I just did it I did the same thing. Anyway, so like non-Advantage Plus shopping campaigns are called business as usual campaigns. A lot of people still use them. And in those instances, I wouldn't spend more than $1,000 per 1 million people in that audience. That's one of the rules that I think about. The other rule I think about is if your click-through rate is below 2%, you have a creative problem.
Agreed.
Like especially at prospecting. Maybe retargeting I could understand, but if your creative is below 2% at a prospecting level, there's a problem in your prospecting creative. So that's the second rule that I've got. Then I've got a rule with CPMs where I'm like, if it's above $20, you should start paying attention because something doesn't look right. I talked to someone and they're like, my CPM is $60. And I was like, I don't need to know anything else about your ad account. so that you have a huge problem with your creative.
Yeah.
Like if you have a CPM above $40, look, there's special rules for for special businesses, I'm sure. But $40 CPM is crazy high. Like, I don't know what you're
across multiple like higher AOVs, you've seen that?
Yeah, I've looked at AOVs to like $120. I've never seen CPMs north of $40 unless it's like very narrow prospecting campaign or I'm sorry, retargeting campaign, or you're like, I sent out this email. Let me take one step back. Yeah. So so my rules are, if your CTR is below 2%, you have a creative problem. If your CPM is above $20, you may have a problem with creative. If your CPM is above $40, you almost certainly have a problem with creative. And like the problem could be your audience is too narrow. That could be a CPM problem as well. It doesn't, not necessarily creative. I should say you have a problem. Could be your audience is too narrow. It could be that a lot of people are saying, don't show me this ad because it's disgusting or offensive, or people don't like it for some reason, or the colors are bad or something. And so those are some of the rules that I think about when I look through Facebook ad campaigns.
Yeah.
And then my third rule was $1,000 per day per 1 million people in your audience.